the Radio Today podcast with Jen Sederhelm.
Hi and welcome. This episode is covering ARN's Upfronts, looking ahead to 2026. All the movements and changes with Chief Audience and Content Officer Joyce talking with Steve Ahern more about the longer range plans for Kyle and Jackie O. Ben Campbell, Director of Digital Strategies, Data and Digital, takes a deep dive into iHeart's new data partnerships and ad tech. And Chief Operating Officer Michael Stephenson talks with Steve about how partnerships work to best serve ARN. But first, to all the movements and changes for the KIIS and Gold networks. Smallsy was confirmed to be joining the KIIS network with The Smallsy Show, which will air from 3 till 4 p.m. weekdays, and a night edition from 7 till 9 p.m. He will be heard on KIIS 106.5, KIIS 101.1, KIIS 97.3, KIIS 102.3, which I will come back to, and KIIS DAB Plus Perth from January 2026. This will mean the end of the pickup with Brittany Hockley and Laura Byrne, who previously hosted the early drive 3 till 4 p.m. slot. It was already confirmed that their Life Uncut podcast would no longer be associated with ARN iHeart. Will and Woody will continue on Drive. ARN's KIIS and Gold networks are going fully national in 2026 in a move which brings Kyle and Jackie O to a new audience in Perth via a new KIIS DAB Plus station. Adelaide's Mix 102.3 will rebrand as KIIS 102.3. In consolidating the Gold brand, Perth's 96 FM becomes Gold 96 FM, Adelaide's Cruise 1323 evolves into Gold 1323, and new Gold DAB Plus stations will launch in Brisbane and Adelaide. Jonesy and Amanda will have a Gold Network National Drive program, with Steve Fitton also announcing that he is leaving the drive role with the network at the end of this year. The new hosts of Mix 102.3, which will become KIIS 102.3, will be Ben and Liam, Ben Harvey and Liam Stapleton, with Belle Jackson returning to her off-air role as producer with the boys. The new host of KIIS 97.3 will be Loey, Craig Lowe, returning to Australia and radio after a long period in the US. Steve Ahern caught up with Chief Audience and Content Officer Joyce about the longer range plans for Kyle and Jackie O.
First question about Kyle and Jackie O. Why are they not going to be on every KIIS station around the country?
I think what we've announced today is the first step in our move to continue the evolution of that show nationally. Of course, we need to have one network that is branded consistently across the whole market, and then we need to ensure that we've got the right lineup in place to complement Kyle and Jackie O across the network. And so we absolutely believe in that show, in its borderless entertainment value, and we'll continue to work with them on their national footprint as and when the time is right. We're constantly evolving our content plans and our programming decisions, and I think the decisions that we've announced today and putting Loey into Brisbane is all about elevating the entertainment proposition in that market. You know, we have a pipeline of talent right across the network that really help to strengthen the brand and the national proposition. So just because, you know, we might move people from one day part to another doesn't mean that they are not part of the network and adding value overall.
Well, Loey's a seasoned performer and well known, so I'm sure Brisbane will appreciate him. But for Kyle and Jackie O, still pushing that barrow, they're going to be in Perth on DAB. Do you think Kyle will be happy to just be on DAB in Perth?
Yeah, we've worked with Kyle on these plans, and I believe that DAB has long been undervalued here in this market. I think that there's a lot more that the category can do to really elevate that as a play-out proposition. And as consumers migrate more and more to digital consumption means, I think that the way some content is broadcast becomes less and less relevant. If it's great content, content, then consumers will find that content and they will find the right way to consume it for them, whether that be through audio, video, social, or in live experience. And that's really the depth that we're planning to build into all of our brands and all of our programming.
ARN iHeart have partnered with women's lifestyle network R Media to distribute and represent a range of premium podcasts and will also expand its slate of iHeart originals. The first original to launch is Love Island Australia Officially Unpacked in partnership with ITV Studios Australia and Nine. As well, iHeart is teaming up with Making the Call to launch an Australian audio network dedicated entirely to women's sports. This initiative will deliver daily coverage, podcasts and content focused on elite to amateur athletes, competitions and stories from across the nation. Also launched was the next generation iHeart Radio app into Australia, bringing free mobile features and content access to local listeners. Ben Campbell, Director of Digital Strategies, Data and Digital, shared more on the new data partnerships and ad tech.
Through our partnership with iHeart, we've got about 3 million registered users in Australia today. The iHeart network in total is about 7 million listeners per month, though. So there's a percentage that are on iHeart, listening on iHeart, but then there's a bigger audience actually who are listening on podcasts on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And of course, there's, when people are listening off platform, you don't have a lot of that single sign-on events. You don't have the addressability of that audience. You've got fewer signals that you're able to receive from that. So we've partnered with Experian to license their identity spine, which will be combining with the iHeart identity spine, which will basically give us increased addressability across all of those listeners who are listening off platform.
And so what do you get with that? Do you get their IP address, their geolocation?
Yeah, so we get their IP. Well, we're receiving the IP address already in the ad request, but it means that we get their geolocation, we can access things like the hashed email address of that customer so that we can then identify who those listeners are. And then we've also partnered with Westpac as well, with their DataX division, and we will be enriching the iHeart audience with the Westpac credit card customer database. Westpac have segmented their transactions down into over 200 different merchant level categories. So that's things like, do I buy from dry cleaners? Do I buy from fast food restaurants? Do I buy from cafes regularly? So they've segmented their customers based on transaction history around those different merchant level categories. And we'll be using those merchant level categories to be able to target listeners across our network based on their transaction history.
So if I've got a transaction history of taking my suit to the dry cleaners, that means that I might hear more ads for dry cleaners.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't say dry cleaners is a large category for us by any means, but it's just an example of people who are going to sporting events, new cars, or anything that you might buy on your credit card. The Westpac is categorising down into those merchant levels, and then we're using that data and deploying it across the iHeart podcast, radio streaming and music streaming network.
And how are you keeping your listeners' data safe?
It's all anonymised, so we're building out a data lakehouse on Azure Databricks and Microsoft Fabric. So that will be the platform where we're storing all of that data in a very, very secure platform. And that's where we'll be running things like data science, data engineering around that data to build out the necessary tables and the single view of our customer to be able to apply all that targeting to the audience. And then that from that, we'll then be deploying those data sets and that audience segmentation into Triton that'll support our reserved IO targeting, but also into also through Triton, the programmatic buying and targeting, and also into Magnite for additional programmatic targeting as well.
It's very exciting for advertisers to be able to use audio to target down to that very fine level that in the past you've been able to get through, mail outs and things like that. But you've never been able to get it from radio because we haven't had that level of audience data.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's really exciting, and you know, there are other mediums that have been doing this in digital for some time, like display and BVOD with connected TV as well, and we're bringing some of those capabilities into the digital audio space.
And looking to create a cohesive audio, visual, social and live experience for ARN, Chief Operating Officer Michael Stephenson talked with Steve Ahern about how brands and partnerships work to best serve the network.
Our strategy is to create more content, distribute it more broadly and monetize more effectively. Quite simple and obvious. The really interesting thing for me about being in the audio business now is that whilst we represent iHeart and it's core to our business, we distribute our content on Spotify, Apple Pods or YouTube Music, etc., etc. And when we distribute our content onto those platforms, the only place that you can buy advertising in that content is from ARN. So we sell it, we serve it, we monetize it, and obviously we receive the revenue as a result of that. It's really unique to audio and very, very different to the video world. We sell it, we serve it, we distribute it, and I think that's a huge opportunity for us.
What's the deal that you've made with Spotify and the others? You will sell it, you will take the money. Do you then pay them a commission for being on their platforms?
Now, if you think about Spotify as a business, they're predominantly a subscription business and an aggregator of content. Having our content and other people's content on their platforms is good for their subscription business. And of course, for us as an advertising business, it's good for our distribution. So they're very, very different business models. And like I said, if the content that is as either an iHeart original or a represented piece of content, the only place that you can buy it is from ARN. And I think that's really important.
And that's all from us today. I'll catch you next time.
Radio Today with Jen Saderhelm. Find more at radiotoday.com.au.
radiotoday.com.au